Welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter podcast, your number one source of all things bodybuilding. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. Now, here's your host, Leroy Rollins.
All right, people, welcome to another episode of the podcast. This is a bit of a disappointing episode, unfortunately. We're going to set the tone real low right off the hop. So for people that have been following Connor, Breton, myself, been following the podcast, you guys know that we were kind of on this little bit of a trend. Every 5 weeks, we were doing a bit of a prep update regarding the WMBF Edmonton show on October 24th of this year. So we did it at 20 weeks out. We did it just a few weeks ago at 15 weeks out. Yesterday would be 11? 12.
12. Just 12, yeah.
So yesterday, and I say would have been 12 weeks out because we got some shitty news, boys. We got some shitty news. I guess Connor got the first word first. So give us your side of the story, my friend.
Well, I'm going to be honest. So, and I'm curious because I don't even know the whole scoop of what happened to the show after I talked to Leo. So I'm curious to hear that from Breton. But Leo called me Tuesday, and at first he told me that they were looking at canceling the pro classes. So I was like, okay,
we should specify that this was a pro amateur class or pro amateur show. So there was going to be, I guess, 2 shows technically. Continue.
Yeah, so this WMBF, I think they usually call it the Intercontinental Pro. It's the only Canadian WMBF Pro show. So that's the show we were all prepping for. And Leo told me Tuesday they were looking at canceling the pro classes. And it kind of makes sense. There's only probably so many pros that were doing it. And there's probably like only a few that are like in Alberta, and probably all of them are needing to travel. So obviously to catch the viewers up, there's a self-isolation rule for most provinces. Not every province. Not in Ontario, not in Alberta, but for me, myself, and Breton, we're in the Atlantic bubble, which includes PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland. If we travel anywhere, when we come back, we have to self-isolate for 14 days. So it kind of made things, non-feasible. So we're all prepping through it. Leo gave me the word Tuesday. They were thinking of canceling the pro show, and at first I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like I was pretty much prepared for that. But then I actually got the good news, which. I'm kind of all smiles about this, and we can go into it later about, how things, I think, in my situation kind of worked out pretty nicely, but basically they told me they would extend all the pro cards another year. So that, gave me, a sigh of relief. And then he kind of talked about getting some of the Canadians together, doing the pro show in Alberta next year, and then doing Worlds. And I was like, you know what? I would love to do Worlds next year. I think that would work out. It'd give me some time to save some money and save up some gains. Yeah. That would give me about 40 weeks in the surplus. So I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. I'm down. And I've said it 1,000 times, but my preference wasn't even to compete this year. It was to do my usual improvement season, which can be extended sometimes. But I was thinking kind of 2 years. But then I won that card, WMBF Pro card. I didn't get a chance to get a pro show win before I had to just get my life back on track to normal thoughts and emotions and just being healthy, happy, all that stuff. But I was ready to go again this year. So I did end up getting pretty lean, but not to the point where there was any sort of like recovery deficits. And I was surprised because I was getting pretty close. Like it was coming in, but I feel great, and I'm ready to I'm actually officially starting my second leg of the off season tomorrow. I wrote it all out in a training program today, 5-week block. So I'm ready to rock, my friends. Let's do this. Let's do 2021. I'm prepared.
Nice. So yeah, I guess you would have found out first, and then we had a group chat going on Instagram, the 3 of us. So we would kind of message each other back and forth. How's everybody feeling? What's going on? A lot of the conversation was news, if we'd heard anything regarding quarantine and stuff like that. So the 3 of us were trying to work together to figure out, what was kind of happening. So you had messaged us saying that Leo was potentially going to reach out to Breton and I. What had happened was, so I think you said that was Tuesday. So it would have been maybe Thursday for me. Leo had commented on a story or something like that. So then I was like, well, Frig, well, I've got your attention. What's the deal with the show? And that's when he had messaged me and said, yeah, like, can I give you a call? And he basically told me, so for those listening that maybe don't know the full scoop, these two guys are pros. I am not yet a pro, so I was going to do the amateur show. These guys were going to do the pro show. My goal was obviously to try to get that pro card. Within the WNBF, they have certain requirements as far as like number of athletes and stuff like that to hand out a pro card. So one of the things that Connor and I had talked about was that, you know, if I go all the way out there, there's a chance that I could win my class, but not necessarily win my pro card because there just might not be enough people with everything that's going on. So there was a lot of different kind of, I don't know, bubbles floating around that was kind of dictating what was all happening for this show. But anyways, Leo was like, "Yep, let's have a chit chat." So he called me and he was like, you know, with everything that's going on, it's just not looking like we're going to be able to do it. He had mentioned that I think he said like 15 venues he had reached out to that said no, which is crazy because that's scrambling.
So he must have lost the original venue then. I didn't take notice to what it was because I don't know anything about the city of Edmonton, but did he say that he lost the original venue?
Not directly, but I mean, if you're looking for different venues, I would assume be the only reason why.
Yeah. Must have been, yeah.
Yeah, so he had said, you know, like we're not getting any thumbs up as far as venues go.
Right.
When he mentioned the pro show, he's like, you know, no one's going to be able to get here outside of the country, basically. So that's an issue. Even people within the country. I mean, your guys' situation about quarantining on the way back, I know that was impacting what you guys were going to be able to do. Even if you could go, just logistically, it might not work for you, right? So there was so many things that were kind of determining whether or not he was going to be able to run the show. And from my understanding, the WNBF as a whole is probably going to call it a year, at least up here in Canada anyways. He said that because Worlds is in California this year, and if you're up to date at all with any COVID stuff, California's a shit show. So he's not even sure if Worlds is going to go ahead, which is super unfortunate. There's a few guys that I know that are gunning for that are from all over the world that just might end up with a pretty shitty hand. So it sucks. It's not good. It's not a good time.
No.
So
Breton, I think Leo was the last one to get to you. I'm curious, like, what story you got from Leo as well. Because I think when he called me, he was just figuring out, kind of like, you know, making sure, just in the early stages of like figuring out where the show stood. So I'm kind of curious what you heard.
Yeah, so it was actually funny because when you first messaged in the group chat saying Leo was going to reach out to you, I know it was a couple days in advance. I honestly didn't even think that it was going to be about the show being canceled. I thought it was just maybe, I know sometimes they'll off-season test, like drug test athletes or whatever it may have been. I just thought he was just maybe trying to reach out. So when he called me, then you gave me the heads up that the show could be canceled. I was actually pretty shocked. I was in the middle of a workout, and I just kind of like looked in the mirror, and I was like, wow, shit, this really sucks if this is reality.
See, sorry to interrupt, but I would have told you on Tuesday, but Leo sounded like he was kind of just a little wish-washy on some things. I just didn't want you to hear it from anyone but him. That's why I just was like, heads up, man, Leo might be getting in contact with you.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. I think that was the right thing to do 100%. Yeah. So, he called me, and he literally just basically the same thing he told you guys. He said, listen, looks like we're definitely going to cancel the pro show portion of things. He said the same thing to me. He said about 15 different venues he tried to go through and just having no luck. And then also the same thing as you guys, he mentioned about getting a big group together and doing the show in Alberta. I think he mentioned the Calgary one actually, where he was trying to get a big bunch of people to go to.
They're switching the Edmonton show next year to Calgary. So the same show, that's the Canadian Pro show, is going to be in Calgary rather than Edmonton at the same time of year. I think Edmonton is like sooner in the year and just an amateur show.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So he mentioned that, and then grabbing a big group of people going to Worlds, which would be awesome, and that's kind of what I'm planning as well, which would be great. But I was kind of with you as well, Connor, because for me, I mean, obviously I was competing this year more so to keep my pro card. I would have actually done another year or two off season if that was kind of my choice anyways. And with me, I have one more year left of school. I'm going to be a full-time student, trying to do that 14-day self-isolation, going back and forth. It would have been really tricky to do. So, and
this makes sense,
it kind of worked out for the better for the most part, even though it is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, just like you, I mean, obviously you're quite a bit leaner than me, Connor. I'm pretty surprised at actually how well you were feeling when you would send us some of those physique pictures. Like, holy shit, this guy's friggin' shredded already. So that is good. And I was happy because I was right on the cusp. Like, I'm lean, I'm not like overly lean, and I think if I would have dieted, say, lost another 5 pounds over a couple weeks, I would have been feeling it for sure. So yeah, I mean, take the good with the bad. We got another extra year off season, make some gains, and let's go make some moves here, go to Worlds all together. That'd be awesome.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I was kind of echoing what you were saying there, Breton. I saw a pretty aggressive few weeks. So I think when we did the 10 or 15 week out, I was just under 170.
Yeah,
I was 162, closing in on 161, just like this last week. So 5 weeks, well, not even, no, 3 weeks, I guess, because we're only 12 weeks out.
Yeah.
3 weeks and 7-8 pounds. So it was pretty ambitious, and I was starting to get, once I get into the 150s is when it was going to start to probably hurt a little bit. And working with Cliff, he had said potentially like late 140s. So it was going to be a bit of a grind. Like, even like if I was 162 at 12 weeks out, a pound a week would have put me at 150, even a little bit more aggressive. I would have been into the 140s, theoretically by the time we hit the stage. So it was going to be interesting. I was excited because I was like, especially now getting like the gym back in my life.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, 12 weeks out, like that's kind of like a little bit of a milestone. Let's really put the gas down. And I really wasn't like with Connor, I really wasn't feeling all that bad. Like, as far as prep effects go, like you have those, fatigue moments and those hunger times, but I would say 90% of the time, like, I felt good. And I think it's interesting because I'm eating a lot less than normal. Like he had me eating quite a bit less, but I was doing like no cardio. Like 2 20-minute sessions in a 7-day period is nothing, but I was only eating like 2,200. But because I wasn't doing much activity-wise, like outside of training, I don't do a whole lot. I just didn't feel the hunger all that much. So it was a very different prep than I was used to. And I was very excited where it was going to go. But yeah, just like you said, take the good with the bad and prepare for next time.
Yeah, it was. It's a weird feeling, man. I never experienced a show being canceled when you're prepping, and like I said, I was really shocked by it. So at the 12-week go point, like you said, that's a nice milestone to hit. So I was getting to the point where I was getting really excited. I could see, getting leaner each week, and I felt like my physique was really coming together, and I would have been brought a nice package to stage. But next year it is.
I think in terms of like the prep feels, things slowing down, and like as far as like when they slow down, like what type of body composition like you're at, it's kind of strange with like my situation because I felt like when I prepped last year, I just kind of brought my body into like this different level of conditioning that I hadn't really tapped into before, and I knew in the off season I had to keep things like reasonable to make this plan that just switched. We just switched all it around now, but to make this plan work, I know I needed to stay like a lot more reasonable than my past off seasons, but. It's weird because a lot of that separation I had, like in the hamstrings, the glutes, the calves, the arms, like it all kind of stayed. But if you look at my body now, you can like still pinch a decent amount of fat, but like you can still see all the lines. So it's kind of like I've heard Alberto Nunez talk about this before. Like he's someone who just gets as peeled he can ever get, right? And he said there were some years where he kind of stood in some lighting that was like favorable, and he thought he was ready really early because he really has that grainy muscle maturity effect, but there actually was like more fat to come off. Like I think I was just at that point where like, okay, the next 5 pounds, it was going to be some hurtful stuff, but it was just the way it looked with like good lighting looks a lot more impressive than it actually was in terms of how low the body fat is.
Yeah, it's all fake. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Well, I just found every year I prepped. I got a little bit more muscle maturity, and it's like if you think about when you start lifting weights, you get like the bicep vein, right? And then you're like, sweet, my first vein, right? And you're just like all pumped about yourself, like hell yeah, I got a bicep vein, I'm getting pretty juicy here. Yeah. And then like maybe like you do a bulk and lose it, you're just like, oh well, it's gone, and then you cut down, and then you get more veins. You know what I mean? And it just kind of compounds that way. And like one thing I noticed is that even at my top weight in the off season, like I still had a few veins running through my quads and stuff, which I never had in the off season before. And then it just the effect kind of just it's kind of just snowballed that way to more like I have like veins in my entire legs now, even though there's still some body fat to pinch, which is just like kind of strange but kind of cool at the same time. So yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so
bring on.
It is August 2nd. You theoretically have till what? Next September would be when the show will be again. Is that kind of basically just a year now? A year moving forward?
I think it's supposed to be in October if I have it right. And I kind of looked at the timeline quickly today, and it gives me, if I was to start prep the middle of May in 2021, it gives me about 40 weeks to play with in a surplus / like or maintenance, or like if you need to fit a mini cut in there, it could fit in there if needed. But basically 40 weeks before like prep would start again. So that's a decent chunk of time. That's like some time to make some decent improvements for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I got a question for you guys then. What are your guys' plans? So obviously prep's canceled. Are you guys what are you guys planning to do for the next like 40-ish weeks? Are you gonna try, and I know Connor, you mentioned you're gonna keep things tighter this time around. Are you guys really gonna push the scale up as much, or try and stay a little bit leaner this time around, or what are you guys thinking?
You go ahead, Leroy.
So I'm actually we're gonna go 2022. We're gonna take next year to really. So I talked to Leo, and he was like, you're right there, as far as, because I was very upfront, like I'm coming to like get my pro card, like I'm gonna put it all on the table. That's what I'm going for. I'm not coming to like win a class, place well, like yes, but the caveat is like I want to turn pro. So he basically was like, you're right there. He's like, I think that with a good solid time off to like really just kind of take it that little bit further, like next level physique. He's like, I think it's just a matter of when, not if. And that really like coming from him, that really kind of struck hard. I was like, damn, like that, thank you. I appreciate that. So with next year is supposed to be, we're supposed to get married. Obviously we just bought a house, so there's some financial obligations with that. And then I'm supposed to promote the Ontario show next year.
Right.
So that's in September, which, we'd be like 4 weeks out at that point, theoretically, if that show ran in October. So
that's rough,
between the financial obligations next year, the life obligations next year, I owe it to my fiance to give her some time. And then, like, I really want to promote the show and bring the WMBF here to Ontario and make it something special and stuff. So we're going to take probably, obviously, all of this year is going to be a gaining phase. I haven't decided. Me and Cliff are going to try to figure out, what would be the best bet as far as, like, spring 2022, because we don't have anything locally as far as the WMBF goes in the spring, or in the fall, really, except for the Ontario show if I continue to run it. So I'd have to go to the States again, which is fine because I went down to New York, last April to do my first WMBF show. So if I play it with the spring 2022 and go to New York, there's April, May that I could bang out and hopefully, get what I want, which would have me start prep November 2021. Or we wait till fall 2022, which would give me like a solid year and a half of gaining, which I've never had. So I've been competing since, I didn't really think about this till now, but I've been competing since 2015, and the most I've ever had off was like 9 months in that time. So like obviously like periods between shows, but it's never amounted to more than 9 months of a off season, which is nothing. 9 months is nothing. And then back into prep, finish a show, 7-8 months back into prep, finish a show, 9 months back into prep. So with what I've done in those periods of times, I think doubling that will be pretty cool. And I think that is exactly what I need to go that next level that Leo mentioned. I think it's just a little bit more refinement in my back, a little bit more volume on the quads, and I think that, in the right lineup with me prepping, like with Cliff again and nailing it all, I don't see why it can't happen. So
awesome.
yeah,
That's a good
as
plan.
much as I'd love to join you guys next year, I think from a life standpoint, but also from a competitive standpoint, we're in this for the long haul. It doesn't need to happen next year, this year, really.
Yep.
Then we'll wait till 2022 and really come on, and bring something special.
Right on, man. That's a good plan. Like you said, I mean, if you made so many large improvements in 8-9 month off season, doubling that's going to be exciting. You're going to add a lot of tissue there. So
yeah,
you're still young too. Like even compare it like especially compared to someone like me. Like I'm 30 and I've been training for 11 years, I think. So
I forget you're 30.
Don't tell anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm 26, right? So January 22, I would be 28 at that time. So yeah, if I could make my wave at 28 years old, and then if the stars align to like pro debut the following year, or even I guess best case scenario is kind of do it right when you
after
turn pro. Yeah, that's what you wanted, right? Is to hit it right after you get your pro card, and then have the 2 years off after that.
Yeah.
I think that'll also be a factor now that I'm talking about that out loud, is see where, if I can bang out 1 or 2 shows, get a pro card, and then see like, okay, what's within the next 4 to 6 weeks, boom, pro show, okay, off season, shut her down.
Yep, absolutely, it's a good idea.
And it's interesting. It's interesting with the WNBF, because WNBF's like the only one that does the 2 years, from my understanding. Like I have a buddy that has his OCB pro card, and once he's got it, he's got it. It's the same with the IFBB. Once you have it, you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So for my off-season body weight, I might push it just a little bit more than I did this year, just because as I got into this diet, I think it was like 10 weeks into deficit, I was surprised how fast it came off and how like not a big deal it seemed. Like I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say I'm a stress case, but I'm always just worried that I'm going to be like behind. I had some shows, like I had my first ever competition prep where I was like majorly behind, it was actually pretty much the whole prep was a pretty bad experience. It was very eye-opening, but like it just wasn't how I wanted to get on stage. It wasn't how I wanted to feel at 4 weeks out, just being like behind, all that stuff. So I kind of always carry that with me, which I think to some degree it's good because you'll probably get on stage, peeled, but you can also just be a little bit too aggressive sometimes and just be, especially now that I coach myself, I don't have someone to hold me back. So it can be pretty easy to kind of jump the gun on some things. And I honestly think had I gone to the show this year, I was just a little bit early, like to where I needed to be, which it's not a huge problem, but it's just like, can I get it a little bit better? Can I retain a little bit more fullness? And some of it can be a game of like what you lose or what you don't lose towards the end. But I felt this was like pretty automatic coming off this 10 weeks. And I was like, I had about maybe like 6 pounds left to lose to be like as peeled as I was last year. So I think the plan is to kind of push my body weight where I left off this year at 199. I think I can bump it up to like 205 and be pretty safe. And then, kind of start a 26-week prep there. And I want to kind of get a lot of that in. Like, I don't want it to go too slow because I just find with if you go too slow gaining, you can just kind of be in this state of like staying lean and just trying to like, it's kind of gratifying, but it's like kind of not going anywhere. So like I've done that before. So it's kind of like a fine line between having lots of momentum in your training, gaining weight at like a reasonable pace, knowing you're in a surplus. But what I'm definitely not going to do is what I did in the past last year, and just like when I hit that 205 mark, like some things happen, like your insulin sensitivity drops off, like you have to like really increase the carbs to keep getting pumps. And then at that point, I think you're kind of just adding fat on fat, and it's just like not as. That's kind of like the line for me where it starts to become unproductive. So once I reach that, which should be in like 6-7 months, like that would be the time to either do a maintenance phase, hold that weight, or do a mini cut and then get back up there again. So really, my goal is just to get it to stay in that zone where things work really well, and not stay too lean or not get aggressively heavy. Like the off-season body weight thing is funny because like no one really especially when you start bodybuilding, it's kind of like confusing what you do. Like some people bulk up, some people stay really lean, and like I tell people who are confused, like pretty much the answer is to get 30 pounds over, unless you're like really tall or really short. That might not work, but like 30 pounds over seems to like work pretty well for most people, if provided you're coming in shredded, right? So that 30 pounds over puts me exactly at like 205 basically for the most part. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, this will be interesting for me because last off season before this prep started, I was 192, which was the heaviest I'd ever been. I think I'd seen prior to that like early to mid 180s, and I'd saw 192 consistently. Which for people who maybe don't know, I'm 5'7", so 192 was pretty damn solid. And yeah, like so if I got say 152 just for argument's sake on stage, like that's 40 pounds. And I still like can hit a pose and look like a bodybuilder even at 192, right? Like yeah, I'm definitely.
I was surprised how lean you posted the picture. I was surprised how lean you looked at your top end of your off-season body weight. I was like, wow.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'll give people some perspective. Can you guys see that? Yeah.
Yep.
So that was 192 to 162. So that's 30.
Jesus. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So
you
I don't
look
know.
pretty good at that heavy of a body weight, man.
I think just to stroke my ego, since I got time, I'll touch 200 just to say I did it. But I think kind of around that 190 is probably where I can make a lot of progress. I was strong as shit at 190. Like I was pulling 500 for reps. Like I was benching like 315 for like 3s, 4s, 5s sometimes.
Oh shit!
So yeah, I was fucking strong. So I think that if I and I only had that for maybe like a month, and then like that was like peak, and then held, and then prep started. So I think if I can play the 185 to 190 for like 6-7 months, I think a lot of cool stuff could probably happen in that time.
Yeah. And like for me, when I pushed my body weight super high in the past, so if anyone doesn't know, like I've gotten up over 220 before and dieted for 9 months, and I did that for 2 preps. In 2016, I remember I started at 217 pounds, came down to like the mid 170s, and then in 2019 I started at 224 and came down to the low 170s. So but just going through this diet here and just looking at all the natural body movement stuff I looked like at over all the years, like I kind of just realized like no one, as long as you don't really let yourself get out of control, I don't really think there's a reason to need to prep for over like 6 months. Like most of the guys that were coming in peeled, like the Brian Whitakers, like Doug Millers, stuff like that, they're all doing like around 26 weeks, and like this newer trend to do like 40 weeks or like 45 weeks, like which I've done 2 of, so I'm totally familiar with them. I don't really think they did me that much of a benefit. And I know from doing this 10-week diet where there was really no like destruction of like my hunger hormones or just like feeling crap. Like I just feel like there's just no need for me to make my process like less efficient. Yeah. And in the past, I was willing to do that just to get that like maybe to get that possible extra 2%, 3% more muscle gains. I was like, let's roll that dice, but now that I've been there a few times, I kind of like realized the grass isn't greener. And I'm just like, let's just have a nice middle of the road off season and do my best every day. And like, what's gonna matter is like stringing a bunch of good workouts together. Making sure I'm in a steady surplus, making my meal timing perfect, making my form perfect, logging all my workouts, knowing where I was last time, making sure I'm traveling in the right direction. If something's wrong, fix it right away. All those things are what's gonna make my success for a little bit more muscle gain, not the fact that I push up another like 20 pounds or whatever. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so many different things now that are coming to light regarding like training and how to be like efficient and stuff, right? And I think that as weird as it sounds, I think people really underappreciate like how much good training actually does for you. Like if you like track and you progress and those 2.5 pound plates, 2.5s turn into 5s, turn into 10s, and then 6 months goes by and you got another plate on the bar. Like I don't think people really realize like how much that matters in progressing your physique, right? And like I coach, right? So I have a few like younger athletes now, and I'm like trying to drill into their head like you need to like track your stuff, see where you're progressing, see where you're stalling, and just get stupid strong. You're young, eat a lot of food. You don't need to worry about all the little minutia of it all right now. Frig, you're 18. Like, when I was 18, it was eat big, get big. That's all I knew. But it worked, right? I ate a lot. And even at that age, like, I tracked my workouts and I trained relatively smart. But it just seems like that piece of the puzzle is missing. That no one wants to do the dirty work in the gym. Or it's like, when do we switch the workouts up? When do I get new workouts? It's been 4 weeks, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, call me in 6 months. Like, you need to get strong on, like, these 10 movements. And then when it starts to stall, which if you're doing it properly, like, you shouldn't see stalls that often, right? Because
yes,
always,
exactly, yeah.
You know what? Like, especially with the setup I have at home now, because this is where I'll be training. Like, I'm going to be milking the squat, bench, and deadlift for the next 18 months. And when I'm pulling, 5 plates off the ground for sets of 10, I wrote down in my book today, squat 405 for 10. That's the off-season big goal for me. I've hit it for 5, so we need 5 more reps. Like, I think hitting that and peeling my legs down, there will be a difference.
Oh, yeah, yep. Definitely.
Just to add on to that, because I agree with you totally, because I did my first competition ever in 2016, and then I did my second competition season in 2018. That's when I won my pro card, and that's when arguably I made the biggest transformation to my physique. I think I added like 11 pounds to my stage weight.
That was huge, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
I looked drastically different, in my opinion, just a whole completely different physique. And literally what I did is I ran the same program, I think it was 12 months straight. And it was literally just every single week I was able to add 2.5 pounds onto my bench. Or maybe if I couldn't, it was an extra rep from last week. And I literally just followed that for 12 months straight. And I made the biggest changes to my physique. Wasn't switching up my workout, wasn't switching up my exercises, wasn't muscle confusion. It was just literally
getting strong. Are you listening closely, viewers,
movements.
to what he just said? He did the same thing for 12 months, a full year, and he gained 11 pounds of muscle, and he's natural. There you go.
Yeah,
that's a pound a month.
Literally, it was the most productive time in terms of actually improving my physique, and that's when I just did things simple. I had a program I knew I enjoyed, and I just progressed at it. Simple as that. Movements that I knew were going to benefit my physique, and that was simple as that.
Yep.
See, it's better if you can stick with the same program, because you get the feel for what kind of rhythm the progression can be. And, like, one of the biggest problems is people just, like, opening up their Instagram feed and seeing, like, I'll pick on them for a second, like a grimy row or like a grimy reverse pull down or something, right? Yeah. And they're like, I'm going to add that in.
Yeah.
But then, like, once you do that, like your basic tricep pushdown was progressing fine and you had momentum. And when you have momentum, things are just snowballing, and like, maybe you're not seeing like crazy gains, in 1 week, but they added up over that long period of time, right? So, like, that's one thing that I was honestly, it took me to becoming a little bit more mature to get good at. It wasn't that I had like training ADD, but I was pretty bad with logging my workouts. Like, I just went to the gym for fun for the longest time, and I just like to listen to my music and be intense, like, for the most part. And I would get on programs, and I would log sometimes, and I go a long time without it. And then, like, I do a contest prep, my strength would go down, so I wouldn't want to log it because it made me feel bad. And it's something that I've been like forcing myself to get better at. And a big thing for me too is just learning how to execute movements better, like, especially for my missing body parts. Like, I don't know if you guys ever checked it out. I mean, I don't care if these guys do well or great, but their information's great. But this website, the N of One guys, it's this Kasim guy who's really into biomechanics. I've been on that site quite a bit. Like, the member site, it's $20 a month, but he's really got specifics for like each individual like muscle group for like which angles to train them at. And I think for what Leroy said, if you're younger, it doesn't really matter. You just like go in, do the basics, and you're going to get what you're going to get. But once you start filling in the gaps, you kind of got to look at like what movements you missed from like a biomechanics perspective. So like for me, not until recently did I ever really hit my lats doing a vertical pull down. I hit my teres major, I hit my mid back, I hit my rear delts, but I did not ever really hit my lats doing like a basic pull down, even on like a cable with a Y grip, or on like just a basic pull up. So like literally like that arm path and the intention of the arm just made the biggest difference, in the way getting my like lower lat fibers to start to hypertrophy, right? And that was something I went like 11 years without. So once you figure some of those things out, that can be a difference maker too, right? And then I kind of get nerded out in the whole site. I'm looking for every muscle group, like medial delts, rear delts, like clavicular pecs, sternal pecs, costal pecs. Like, he's got cues for everything, like everything you could ever think of. It's pretty incredible.
There was just well, not just, it's been posted probably a while now, but it was about like foot placement for calves. Turns out the bros were right. Turns out, after all these years, that Muscle Magazine article from 2010 about turning your toes out and hitting the inner calf actually works.
And Kassem, the video Chris Barakat made, it's with Kassem from NF1, and they kind of discuss that research. And like that's the thing, like he's really big. He's like to line up the iliac fibers of your lat, like you need like this type of motion, and then for the more thoracic part of your lats, you need more of this motion, right? And then I started to think about it, and I was like, it makes sense. I did do all these rows before and stuff, but I wasn't so much thinking about like this portion of my lats, and this is the arm path I need, for a vertical pull, because I would always kind of pull back and hit my cherries. That's just the way my body wanted to move. And did I film it? No. Did I consider I was doing it wrong? Not really. I just kind of worked out, right? So that's kind of like where I'm at in terms of my like refinement process of trying to get to the next level, right? So it's pretty cool. It's fun. It's fun to learn and apply different stuff, and that's the cool thing about bodybuilding is you never stop learning. So
absolutely, man.
All right, dudes. Let's close this off with the next half of the year. Right, so it's August now. We've got, call it 4, 5, 6 months till 2021.
End of the year, yeah.
So Connor, what's the next? What have you started? Obviously, as of yesterday, today. What's things looking like?
I did 2 weeks of maintenance, or I should really just call it active rest. So I kind of actually just ate what maintained my weight loss. It was super easy. I had really no cravings or any sort of energy crash, and I barely trained. I trained 4 days a week. I did a few heavy sets, but like with reps in reserve. So I might have done like a set of like 6 on a split incline with like 3 reps, or 2 reps in reserve or something, and then just kind of fiddle around in the gym to try some different stuff. Because like I said, I was on this N01 site and I was like looking at all this other stuff, but I did not do any hard sets the last 2 weeks. So the idea of that was to kind of like resensitize myself to like volume and not detrain or not think I was going to lose any muscle, but just like give my body a nice break and be fresh. So hopefully like I can come back and do like a minimal amount of volume week 1 and like grow from it and ramp that up over the next 5 weeks. So from now until then, it's definitely caloric surplus, like careful, but like knowingly in a surplus, like not trying to be too greedy with it, but not going a week where I didn't gain a little bit of weight, right? So maybe it's 0.5 pounds. That would be great. If I do that until the end of the year, that would probably put me at about like 15 pounds over where I am now, and then I could probably take a little break on the holidays and do another one, and then maybe do a mini cut, and then do another one again after that. So just kind of like looking to get that weight coming on slow and steady, looking to really improve my chest. That's like pretty much since my back came up, that's my biggest weak point is my chest. Still want to see more calf gains, still want to see more back gains. But I'm kind of looking to see if I can find like a magic formula for chest. That's kind of what I'm going to be experimenting with my training program. So bring it on, man. I need those pecs like literally that write the checks.
So did you create like a meal plan now off of, or did you just sprinkle in more calories?
I went on MyFitnessPal today, and I was like, I think this is well where I need to be to start. And I'm just going to see how I respond. So I'm going to be at about 2,800 calories the first kind of come back to it, see how my weight responds, and then probably add pretty quickly. There's no recovery needed. Like I'm not going to go through that phase where you're like holding tons of water and fluid, and your face is all fat and stuff like that will show. So I feel like I should be able to ramp things up pretty quick and get my calories up there because I didn't get them up as high last off season, and it kind of like mentally made me a little bit worried, even though the weight came off easy. But my body was like recovery mode for about half of that off season. So yeah.
Brandon, what about you, my man?
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tomorrow. Like this weekend, I pretty much kind of was on just the same calories as last week, even though the show's over. I mean, I snuck in a few extra little snacks, but I still never really went out and had a full cheat meal or anything like that yet. I don't know. It's just a mentally weird kind of feeling with everything kind of coming to an end. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm planning on tomorrow, I'm going to increase my calories by probably about 200 or 300, see roughly where I'm at over this next week in terms of, if that's roughly my maintenance right now. And I think I'm just going to kind of slowly gain for a while, being a small surplus. Maybe get up. I think my peak off-season weight was about 193 or so. So that would be another, 15, 20 pounds from here, something like that. So plan is to kind of slowly gain for a little bit, judge to see how I'm looking. And I'm planning on just essentially gaining until next 2021 until I prep, maybe with a mini cut in at one point in time. But I'm going to just try and be very consistent with everything, keep my surplus small and steady, make sure I'm training progressively, and just kind of checking those boxes. I'm also going to play around, too, with, I think I might try and add in some extra rest days, some of my training, play around with the different couple split ideas and stuff like that, and just kind of have fun with things. I always seem to do better when I'm just thoroughly enjoying my training, and I feel like, I don't want to do this movement, or, maybe I'm not enjoying this split as much or something like that. So if I can really kind of check the boxes and make sure I'm enjoying everything, I find I just progress quicker. So that's kind of the plan, man. Just kind of slow, steady surplus. I could definitely see probably one mini cut in there. But besides that, just try and not get, too out of control or get the body fat percentage up too high or anything like that.
Nice. Sounds like similar to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it really is. That's kind of the plan. And I'm at the point too. Like, obviously, I didn't get as lean as you or anything like that.
You're
but
pretty lean, man.
Like, I just feel good right now. Like, even sometimes when you're at your peak off season weight, you're doing sets of like 8 or 10. I'm like, Jesus, I'm out of
lethargic.
Yeah, just kind of feel lethargic and like sluggish. So it's funny. My training feels great right now. I feel like my leverages on some movements improved with a little bit less body fat.
Nice.
So I'm just feeling good. I'm honestly, I think I could kind of ride this out for a little bit, maintenance for a week or two, and then just kind of slow, steady gaining from there.
Beauty. Right on, man.
Yes, sir. That is the game plan.
Cool beans. All right, dudes. Any closing thoughts? I think we should keep this trend going, though. I think this would be kind of cool to do. Continue what we were doing, like every 5 weeks or so, do a quick little recap, especially with the different paths now we're going to take. I think it'll be kind of cool to just share, 3 different perspectives on 3 different journeys, but all kind of doing the same thing, right?
I was thinking we should all log our training and see who's progressing the quickest. And even though we're all probably like different, like strength levels, like different strengths and weaknesses, it would be cool just to kind of keep yourself motivated to see like who's making the quicker progress. You know what I mean? That'll keep me motivated at least.
Yeah, do like every when we do this, do like a quick like logbook, notable lifts kind of deal and recap. Yeah, that's a good idea. That'd be cool.
I like that. That's a good way to stay motivated. Challenge yourself.
Yes.
Nice. Fatter the
okay,
fastest, I'll win. Let's race to 200. Let's go.
Let's go.
All 3 of us.
Okay, I'm in. Let's do it.
All right, boys. Well, I'm glad we were able to do this. Although the start of the podcast started on a bit of a low tone, we're ending it on a high tone because this journey's full of ups and downs. But the one thing that stays constant is we love this sport, and whether it's this year, next year, 10 years from now, I think the 3 of us will be in this game. So, man, I appreciate you guys' time.
Absolutely, thanks, man. Thanks for having us once again.
Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll talk to you guys in 5 weeks. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.